TSPSC Group 1 రిజల్ట్ ఎనీ మినిట్ రావచ్చు. యాంటిసిపేటెడ్ డేట్ అయితే 4th, 5th. చాలా మంది స్టూడెంట్స్ మళ్ళీ ప్రిపేర్ అవ్వడానికి రెడీ అవుతున్నారు. కొత్త స్టూడెంట్స్ కూడా అటెంప్ట్ ఇవ్వాలనుకుంటున్నారు. ప్రాబబ్లీ ఈ ఇయర్ గ్రూప్ 1, గ్రూప్ 2 నోటిఫికేషన్ వచ్చే ఛాన్సెస్ ఉన్నాయి. అయితే శిఖరాలో మేము కొత్త బ్యాచ్ స్టార్ట్ చేశాము. దానికి సంబంధించిన ఫస్ట్ ఓరియంటేషన్ క్లాస్ ఈ వీడియోలో మీరు చూడొచ్చు. మీలో ఎవరన్నా జాయిన్ అవ్వాలి, నేను ఒకసారి క్లాస్ అటెండ్ అవ్వాలి అనుకుంటే కింద ఇచ్చిన డిస్క్రిప్షన్ లింక్ ని క్లిక్ చేసి మీ డీటెయిల్స్ ఇస్తే మా ఆఫీస్ నుండి మీకు లింక్ షేర్ చేయడం జరుగుతుంది. ఒక క్లాస్ జాయిన్ అయ్యి అటెండ్ అవుతే అసలు క్లాస్ ఎట్లా ఉంటుంది, ఇంటరాక్షన్ ఎంతవరకు ఉంటుంది, ఎలా చెప్తున్నాం అన్నది అర్థమవుతుంది. గుడ్ మార్నింగ్. Since today is the first class, I'm going to basically tell you about the subject, what all areas will be there, how we approach Indian polity, where all I'm going to conduct tests, what should you read and what you should not read. And then I request you not to write while I'm explaining. I'll give you some time to write separately, because when I'm explaining, if you listen to me, it is easier. The problem with the online classes is I don't know whether you're listening, I don't know whether you're writing, reading. So request you all not to write when I'm explaining, okay? And after I explain when you're writing, I'm going to give you time. Any of you have any doubts with regard to anything, please feel free to ask me. Okay, now let's begin with the overview of the syllabus. See, basically, Indian polity, as we all know, has a weightage of 50 marks for Group 1 and 50 marks for Group 2, both. Okay, however, Indian polity overlaps with governance in Group 1. Okay, it also has a lot to do with your society, and understanding Indian polity is very, very important to understand areas like Telangana movement and state formation, because in this you come across a lot of GOs, you come across a lot of government procedures which actually are taught in polity. So polity happens to be one of your core areas. Okay, please let me know if I am a little fast. You want me to go a little slow? Is my pace okay with all of you? Please comment in the chat box. Are you able to follow me? Do you remember something called as civics? You read something called as civics in school. Can you all tell me what did you read in civics? 8, 9, 10 social. We had civics, history, economics, and geography. Yes? Do you remember civics? What did you read in civics? Any idea of any topics that you've read in civics? You can talk, Rebecca, but when I'm teaching, please mute yourself. Okay? No problem. Unmute and talk.
Yes, ma'am, we have read civics in our schools.
What did you read in civics?
Like, it deals with how people live in a society, or how a group of people are organized, how they are managed to live in a social front.
Can you recall a few topics that you've read? Did you read about people's rights?
Yes, ma'am. Also state, ma'am.
State government. I'm sure you must have also read about local self-government, about Panchayat Raj.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? So
Yes,
all these topics basically come under polity. Civics is nothing but your polity. The reason why I'm telling this to you is, many a times when I start teaching polity, a lot of you, I'm sure, are from the technical background, BTech చేస్తుండొచ్చు. So most of you feel that polity is something very new to you. You have never heard of it or read about it. See, I'll tell you the biggest advantage and disadvantage of polity. The biggest advantage is it is something which is very familiar to you because you see it in your day-to-day life. Don't we see Narendra Modi every day? Don't we see Revanth Reddy every day? So, we see our Prime Minister, we see our Chief Minister. We know that there is a Prime Minister, there is a President, there are ministers, there are MPs, MLAs, Sarpanch is there, municipality is there. We know that all these institutions and posts exist. Okay, and we see them on a daily basis. So, somewhere in our subconscious mind, we are also aware that what they are doing and what is their role, what they are doing. So that we all know. But now what we are going to do is, under polity, we are going to study about these institutions and pose in a detailed manner. We're going to answer questions like, why do we need a Supreme Court? Why is there a High Court? We have president, we have prime minister. What is the president going to do? What is the prime minister going to do? How are they correlated? Or what is the relationship between president and prime minister? How is the prime minister related to the Lok Sabha? What is the relationship between Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha? Why should we have Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha? So these are the questions that we are going to understand in polity. The advantage is it is something that you come across in your day-to-day life. It is close to you. You see it on a daily basis. The disadvantage with polity is polity has to be understood the way it is there, because polity and law are very close. Law is based on polity. Okay, now what happens is law is based on interpretation. How you understand it is very, very important. Having a right understanding is very important. The biggest disadvantage with polity is it seems easy, but it is not easy. Okay, when you start solving questions, you'll understand the difficulty in polity. That is the reason why you have many teachers for polity in the market, but very few teachers are able to deliver, because we should be able to give you the right perspective and understanding of the subject. So be very careful. Don't take it lightly. Understand everything that is being taught. If you have any doubt anywhere, if you think you're not able to follow, please ask me, because I'll tell you with an example what it means. Okay, now to begin with, the first segment that we are going to deal with is introduction. And the first topic I'm going to tell you is, what is polity, what is constitution? Why should you know about this? Because see, we say the subject is named as polity, okay? But we end up reading the constitution. Does it mean that both the terms are the same? Or does it mean that there is a difference between the two terms? Are they correlated? What is the relationship between them? So in this topic, I'm going to basically explain what is polity, what is constitution, how are they related to each other. Then we are going to talk about the evolution of Indian constitution, that is framing of the constitution. How did the Constitution of India come into existence? We are going to understand the people behind it, the institution, or I can't call it as an institution, but the group of people behind it called the Constituent Assembly. When did we get this idea that we should have a constitution? All this we are going to discuss under framing of the constitution. The third topic that we are going to discuss, see, now we are talking about the birth of the constitution. The constitution is now born. We have to understand the salient features of Indian constitution, meaning what are those features which make our constitution very, very unique. Our constitution is very unique. It is one of its kind in the world. Why do we say that our constitution is very unique? Because there are several provisions in our constitution which you will not find anywhere in any other constitution of the world. At the same time, we should also understand, why are we so unique? What is so great about our constitution? Now I'll tell you what is so great. See, the constitution or law of any country will totally depend on the social ethos of that country, meaning how the society is organized, what are the rules of the society, how people are bifurcated, or people are stratified in the society. All these things will decide your law. Okay, the tribal law will be very different. Our law will be very different, because tribal way of life has an influence on the rules and regulations of a tribal society. Likewise, our way of life has an impact on the rules and regulations. The reason why Indian constitution is unique is because India in itself is very unique. There is no other country in the world which has so many languages, so many cultures, so many races, so many castes, so much of stratification, so much of geographical diversity. There is no country in the world with this kind of diversity. This diversity makes India unique. Because we are diverse, we have a unique constitution. In salient features, basically, we are going to discuss all unique features of the Indian constitution. Okay. Correlated to this, but I'll take it as a separate topic. we are going to discuss about constitutional amendment. Now, what do you mean by amendment? Amendment means making a change. When you make a change to something, you call it as amendment. Okay, constitutional amendment. We are going to discuss about why should you change the constitution? How will you change the constitution? What are the changes that happened till date? Should we change it or not? All these four topics will come under introduction. In these four topics, remember, this topic is very, very, very important because I'm going to cover a lot of concepts here. Like we say, India has a parliamentary form of government. We also say that America has a presidential form of government. So, what is a parliamentary form of government and what is a presidential form of government? In India, we have federal form of government. In America, also we have federal form of government, but in UK, we have a unitary form of government. So all this unitary, federal, parliamentary, presidential, we talk about a welfare state, we talk about universal adult franchise. All these features I'm going to discuss here. This will take a little time, but this is very, very important for your exam. Okay, so once we finish with this part, this is our first part, which we call as introduction. Once we finish this, the second part of our syllabus will be philosophy of the Constitution. Now, what do I mean by philosophy of the Constitution? See, at the end of the day, Constitution is also a book. If you ask me simple in layman's term, what is Constitution? I'll say it is a book of rules. Okay. So whenever a book is being written, it will have a purpose. For example, if I am writing a book, okay, I will first think, why am I writing this book? What do I want to achieve by writing this book? So for every book, there is a purpose. Likewise, for the Constitution also, there is a purpose, meaning the Constitution is written in order to attain something. And now what is that something is given in what we call as the preamble. So the first topic that we are going to discuss here is preamble. Preamble is very, very important. We, the people of India, give to ourselves, from we, the people of India, to give to ourselves every word in the preamble, you have to know. Also, we have to know about the meaning of every word in the preamble. Like we use the word sovereignty. We use the word socialist, secular, democratic, republic, justice, fraternity. So we need to know, what do these words mean? What is the meaning of them? Why are they inculcated in our preamble? So that would be our first topic. Remember, what is the purpose of the Constitution is declared in the preamble. It is a declaration. So the preamble gives you the end that the Constitution wants to achieve. For example, all of you in the class want to become a group 1 or group 2 officer. So, the end objective of your journey right now is to become an officer. Likewise, what is the end that the Constitution wants to achieve is given in the preamble. Now, all of you are sitting in the class today and listening to my lecture. All of you are going to read. You're going to write tests. What are all these actions? We call them as means. These are the steps that you're taking to achieve your end. Likewise, the end declared in the preamble can be achieved through what? Meaning, what are the means to achieve this? The means to achieve the end given in the preamble are, we call them as fundamental rights, directive principles of state policy, and fundamental duties. These are basically the channels through which you achieve the end given in the Constitution. So these are the means. Only with fundamental rights, DPSP, and fundamental duties, majorly you can achieve the aims and objectives of the Constitution. So this is action. This is declaration. We are going to read all four topics in philosophy of the Constitution, and trust me, students, this part is very important because you get at least 10 to 12 marks from this part only. It is very, very important. Fundamental rights will take me nearly 10 to 12 hours to complete because I have to, explain every clause and subclause. I should also explain the various Supreme Court judgments and interpretations on different rights that are enshrined in our Constitution. So fundamental rights is extremely important, the most important topic for you in your syllabus. These would be your first two, introduction and philosophy of the Constitution will be the first two segments that we are going to deal with. Now the question arises as to the tests. Remember, these two topics will be test 1 for you. I'm talking about the MCQs, test 2 for you. This will be test 3 for you. Then we are going to have preamble, test 4. Remember, the minute we finish the topic, the test will be uploaded for you in the website. You have to start practicing it. Then whatever doubts you have, come back to me. I'll discuss them in the class. So 6 tests out of these 2 important units. Am I clear till here? All of you that we are going to discuss would be 3. And this is going to be about the government. See, first part, we have understood what is constitution. How did Indian constitution come into existence? Okay. And what is the important feature of our constitution? What are the important features? The second part, we understood what the constitution wants to achieve and how is it going to achieve. Now we will understand how are we ruled. Okay. Who rules us? How are we ruled and all this. So we are going to talk about government. Listen to this very carefully. See, we call something as Government of India, which is called as the Union Government. This is the first level of government in our country. After the Union Government, at the second level, we have what is called as State Government. After the State Government, we have what is called as Local Self-Government. I'm sure you all must have heard about these 3. Now, under Union Government, we have what is called as Executive, okay, Legislature, and Judiciary. Okay. Apart from these 3, there is something called as a CAG. CAG is also a part of Union Government, but he does not come under Executive, Legislature, Judiciary. Likewise, the state government will also have Executive, Legislature, Judiciary. Okay, now let's understand who will be there in this. Under Executive, you'll have President, okay, the Vice President. Then we have something called as the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. And we have a person called as Attorney General of India, AG. Okay. Legislature, we have President as a part of legislature. Along with President, you have Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. Okay. In judiciary, at the central level, you have only one court, which is called as the Supreme Court of India. Likewise, in state government, when it comes to executive, it will be similar to union government. So in place of president, who will be there? You will have governor. There is no deputy governor. You'll have CM and council of ministers. You'll have advocate general. Okay, in legislature, you'll have governor. You can also have, you'll have state legislative assembly. You may have state legislative council. This is not mandatory. In judiciary, you have high court followed by, I'm sure you must have heard of district courts and all. We call all those courts together as subordinate courts. Okay, this is in the state government. Then I talked about local self-government. In local self-government, you have rural local self, urban local self. In rural areas, you have what is called as panchayat. In urban areas, you have what is called as municipalities. Am I clear till here? So these are the 3 levels of government that we find in India. So the next level, we have to study about all these. Apart from these, we have union territories. I'm sure you must have heard of union territories. Delhi is a union territory. Right now, Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh are union territories. Then you have Puducherry. So, union territories have a different setup of administration. We need to understand the administration in UTs. Likewise, for scheduled and tribal areas also, you have a different type of administration. In scheduled and tribal areas, the administration is made to be in line with their culture and their society. We have to follow the governance itself is molded to their social rules. So scheduled and tribal areas, these are the different types of arrangements we have. Before this, I'm going to tell you what is government, what is governance, why do you need government. All this I'm going to explain in the first class when I discuss polity and constitution. Right. Now let's continue. See, this is the entire set of government. Now the point is, how do we take this forward? How are we going to? I can't teach you all like this, right? It is very clumsy. So, what are we going to do? How are we going to proceed? I'm going to tell you from here on. See, now in this part called government, I'm going to first start with union and state executive, meaning I'm going to teach about president, vice president, governor, prime minister, council of ministers, CM, council of ministers.
Teacher,
Because, Divya, please mute yourself, ma. Because all the provisions related to president and governor, almost all of them will be the same. Provisions related to prime minister and chief minister will be the same. Okay, so we have to study this in comparison, because in your exam they're going to ask you the similarities and the differences. First topic will be union and state executive. Second topic is going to be union and state legislature. After fundamental rights, this is the lengthiest topic in your syllabus. Okay, this is very, very, very important. Here we are going to understand all the procedures in the parliament. I'm sure you all know that in February we got our budget. There was something called as budget speech. There is a procedure of introducing and passing the budget. Okay. Then you must have heard of ordinary law. You must have heard of the word statute. You must have heard of things like, a member has been banned from coming to the legislature or the parliament. I'm sure you must have heard of office of speaker, office of chairman. So we're going to study all these in union and state legislature. Once this is over, the third topic that we're going to do is Indian judiciary. Here we are going to study about the Supreme Court, the High Court, and the subordinate courts. Followed by, once we are done with this, we are done with the union and state governments, but we have Office of CAG. Okay, we are going to study this. Then we are going to study about PRIs. We are going to study about municipalities, urban local government. Okay, then I'm going to discuss about union territories, and the last will be scheduled and tribal areas. Students, remember this topic overlaps with your Indian society. Okay, for both group 1 and group 2, this topic overlaps with Indian society. I hope I made myself clear till here. Okay, now we are moving on to the next. So in 3, we are going to discuss about garment. I told you that you can write it later. I'll give you time. I told you about the structure of the garment, and then I told you about how we are going to proceed. I'm telling you about the test now. Test 7, test 8, test 9. Okay. PRIs and municipalities together will be test 10. Test 11 will include union territory, scheduled tribal areas, CAG, and a few more areas. Okay, and I'm going to tell you that later. So 10 tests we complete till here. Now we are going to go to the fourth part of our syllabus. The fourth part of our syllabus is C. We have completed the evolution of the constitution, the purpose of the constitution, the structure of government. Now what are we going to study next? We are going to study about the various constitutional and statutory bodies. These constitutional and statutory bodies play a very important role in the governance of the country. Okay, in achieving the objectives of the constitution. Constitutional bodies will include, I'm sure you must have heard about Public Service Commission. Your exam is also conducted by a Public Service Commission. Then you must have heard about Election Commission. Then there is something called as National Commission for SC, National Commission for ST, National Commission for BC. Okay, then there is an office called Special Officer for Linguistic Minorities. Okay. Then all these are called as constitutional bodies because they're given in the constitution. Okay, here how are we going to study these? Public service commissions we are going to study under the heading Public Services in India. Okay, Election Commission will be studied under the heading Elections because the heading in the constitution is elections. Okay, National Commission for SC, ST and BC will come under the provisions of, it is called as special provisions. and this comes under official language. But please remember, Election Commission, there is a lot to study because we have to study about the electoral reforms and all. I'm going to talk about it later. So, official language. These are topics we are going to study under constitutional. Under statutory bodies, we are going to study about the National Human Rights Commission, the National Commission for Women, the National Commission for Minorities, the National Commission for Protection of Children's Rights. Okay, then we are going to study about the Lokpal and the Lokayukta. Remember, this entire topic of constitutional and statutory bodies for Group 1 comes under governance, not under polity. Okay, this comes under governance. For Group 2 and Group 1, this also overlaps with society, because in society, in your fourth unit, they have given you institutions that work for the welfare of the vulnerable sections, and NCSC, NCST, NCBC, NCW, these work for the welfare of the vulnerable sections. When I discuss salient features, I'm going to tell you what is a constitutional body, what is a statutory body, how are they different from each other. I'm going to also explain the importance of constitutional bodies, the importance of statutory bodies. So don't worry, I'm not just going to say this is a constitutional body and leave it. I'm going to tell you why it is called as a constitutional body also. Now, this would be the fourth part, and this fourth part entirely you'll have one test. I think we have finished 10. This will be test 11, including those topics that are left out. Okay. Now, the next fifth part that we are going to discuss is very, very important. It is called as Indian federalism. Now, what do I mean by Indian federalism? Federal means a number of levels in government. Indian federalism, we are going to discuss about center and state relations. There are direct provisions related to center-state relations in our constitution. There are indirect provisions which bear a effect on the center-state relations. So we are going to study all of that under Indian federalism. First, we are going to study about the center-state relations, as in the provisions given in the constitution, which will include legislative relations, administrative relations, okay, and also the financial relations. Okay, once we are done with this, we are going to discuss about committees on center-state relations, the Sarkaria Commission, the Punchi Commission on center-state relations. Okay, they're very important. You usually get questions on them. Then we are going to discuss about the emergency provisions, because one of the major issues between center and state is emergency provisions. I'm sure you must have heard of emergency provisions. We are also going to discuss part 1, which is union and its territory, that talks about formation of states in India, and part 2, citizenship. All these we are going to discuss under Indian federalism. Test 11 will be conducted on this. Okay, then sixth part of your syllabus will be electoral reforms or electoral. Okay, here we are first, EC will anyways be covered. Election Commission of India will anyways be covered. So we don't have a problem with Election Commission of India. We are going to discuss what do we mean by electoral reforms, what all electoral reforms took place till date, why electoral reforms, what is free and fair elections. Then we are going to discuss about the various Supreme Court cases on elections and electoral reforms. We are going to discuss about the committees related to electoral reforms in India. Okay, then we are going to discuss about the party system in India, meaning what types of parties do we have? I'm sure you must have heard about state party. Recently, Janasena was accorded the status of state party. Then there is something called as national party. BJP, Congress are called as the national parties. So how do you categorize them into state party and national party? What is the criteria? Who gives this status? All that we are going to discuss under party system. Electoral reforms is a very, very important topic. This also includes the anti-defection law. Party Firaimpu Chattam antaru Telugulo, anti-defection law. So all this will come under electoral reforms. The last part of your syllabus, as far as Group 2 is concerned, Group 1, the syllabus ends here because majority of the topics are given under governance. So, Group 2, the last part of your syllabus will be internal security. Internal security, basically, you have to understand the various the first, there are certain terms related to internal security, like what is internal security, what is insurgency. We talk about insurgency, we talk about state actors, non-state actors, internal security. So we're going to understand those terms. Then we have to understand the governance of internal security in India. The Ministry of Home Affairs is responsible for the internal security of the country. So what is the role? What are the divisions? How does it operate? All that. Then there is something called as paramilitary forces. I'm sure you must, when you go to the airport or any other place, you go to the railways, railway station, you find the Railway Protection Force. You go to the airport, you'll find the CISF there. So what is all these CRPF, CISF, Sahastra Seema Bal, ITBT? What are all these? When are they formed? What is the purpose behind forming them? Okay, then you also have intelligence agencies there, like the IB. What do they do? So all these things we are going to study along with the issues of internal security. What are the various threats to internal security, and what are the measures taken by the government to address these threats? So with this, we actually finish your syllabus. Okay, this will be test 12 and this will be test 13. So in total, 13 tests of MCQs will be conducted for you. Now coming to Group 1, what we are going to do is, once I finish the basic explanation of your subject, we are going to have separate sessions where I'm going to give you additional input along with question and answers. So basically, every 3 or 4 days, a separate Group 1 session will be held for Group 1 students to help them understand answer writing, to give them additional analysis and information. Okay.